All right. Well, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to my first ever broadcast of the Brazuka F1 eRacing League. Brought to you today on my YouTube channel and Twitch stream because we could not get my Streamlabs hooked up with the league's actual YouTube channel. So you guys are in for a treat today because everything I have learned about F1, I have learned by watching the Gran Turismo movie months ago, which I barely remember, and watching a selection of YouTube videos today. So y'all are in for a treat as a complete neophyte attempts to understand and interpret just what the hell is going on as I watch this game. So we have about 3 seconds here until things get underway on the qualifier. All right, we should have some audio to capture shortly. All right, here we go. All right, perfect. Camera type, we've got the camera type. It's not just, there we go. I think that's the maximum amount of information I can stick on the user interface. And Justin Takifanye, I know I must have absolutely butchered that name. He's in the 9th spot right now here. He says that if it makes it easier for him, just call him Thomas. Buddy, I've got 13 names to try to get through, but I will probably remember Thomas for this one. So I do appreciate the offer, and I appreciate you helping me out. All right, and I see we've got the YouTube chat going as well. Nuno Pinto says, let's race, and good luck, everyone. Feliz says, good luck, everyone. Jose Enrique says, Bora, happy. Estamos contigo. Let's go. I know just enough Spanish to get by with this. Tell you what, I'm going to boost up my microphone just a tad to make it a little easier to hear me over the race sound here. So we've got the broadcast camera going on. Starting us out here, Tariel, we've got him in the number 1 slot for qualifying. He's on his out lap. Everybody else except for Fast UGA and Ricky FCP are in the pit. Oh, lovely rainy day here at the Belgium track. Not too different, in fact, from the downpour we are having in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex area here in Texas in the U.S. where I am broadcasting from. So, let's see here. All right, so do forgive me again if I completely butcher names or terms or get everything wrong about F1 because, as I have said, everything I learned about F1 I basically learned in the last couple of hours. So I'm going to be commentating as best I can, trying to fill the dead air, keeping things amusing for everybody, and I say I'm already back down to 1 viewer on the stream, which I'm presuming is myself. Oh dear, already chased people off. But we've got about 15:45 left here in the qualifier. We've got several people out. Tariel, of course, taking his out lap. DM22 Point taking out lap. Johnny Happy, Fast UGA, and Ricky FCP. So we've got a couple of folks going out already. So several folks still in the pit, such as Johnny Bananas, Soldier 1 Assault, Pedro Prensa, 614, Hiram Pelosi. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the camera here on Tariel while we get things underway. 15:15 left here in the qualifying. So if I understood the, I think it was an F1 primer for idiots type video that I did watch, of course, the qualifying laps, of course, determine the grid. That is the starting position in an F1 race. The first place person getting, of course, pole position, which means, of course, that if they win the race from that position, they get to go on a date with a beautiful Polish woman. Past that point, of course, there's a greater advantage to starting up front than there is in the back. And I will say that I fear that perhaps my commentating abilities were oversold just a wee bit, just a hair, just a slight amount, given that I think someone who promised that I would have insightful commentary from the position of someone who barely knows what they're talking about. I know that we have cars and they're racing. I will say I do quite like the graphics here in this game. Very, they look fantastic here on my Series X. I'm quite glad that I'm getting the chance to watch this. All right, so several people still on their out laps. DM22 point now. Also, Johnny Bananas still in the pit making adjustments. Soldier One Assault here racing for Alpine in the blue and pink. Out now on his lap. Pedro Parenza, same thing, racing here for the Team Red Bull, I believe. So with this wet, I mean, they're having to slow down on those chicanes quite a bit more than even I would think would be normal. So he's got on his intermediate tires rather than the wets. That rain does feel like it's coming down pretty hard, though. I'll be curious to see how many people today will be using wet tires as opposed to intermediates. And given that soft and, of course, hard medium are available, I imagine most folks, given the weather, will probably be sticking to intermediates and wets. I don't foresee a whole lot of people using hard tires today. I think it's going to be soft, intermediates, and wets that we're going to be expecting to see. All right, fastest lap goes to Tariel on the Aston Martin team with 158.784. So that puts him in a good position here. That'll put him at pole position so far. Okay, Ricky FCP now with a 155.711. He now takes pole position for Williams, bumping Tariel to second. We've got our third time in. Johnny Happy now in second with a 157.52.5. And I'm sorry I'm yelling. It's very difficult to remember as I've got my headset on that the amount of volume that is coming out of my mouth is not dependent on the amount of volume from what I hear. So, all right, we're still waiting on some more times. Lap 1, caution, sector 2. So we got a yellow flag out here. Fun fact, I actually had to be instructed on how to withdraw from a race earlier today so I could spectate properly. We've got some more times coming in here. DM22 point with a 156.494. That is good enough currently for second. Tariel now back in fourth position. Ricky FCP, of course, still holding on to first with a 155.711. And we'll start to get some caution sector 1 going on here. So we'll start to get some more times here momentarily. Pedro has now taken the top spot with a 154.073. So it seems that as people are getting onto the track, the number 1 slot still dropping here. So we're currently following Pedro. I'm going to go ahead and bump out to Johnny Bananas here. Let's see how good old Johnny is doing as he heads towards the finish line. He's on his outlap. We should know relatively quickly what his time was, and we'll see what his starting position is going to be. So as he crosses that finish line, Johnny Bananas does not yet have a time. Okay, I guess he's not on his final lap there. All right, here we go. So Johnny Bananas now taking his qualification lap. We still have the majority of the field yet to finish their qualifying lap. Johnny turning it up a little bit as he comes out into section 1 here. And he's going to continue pushing. He's got some green space ahead of him. Caution sector 3. We had a caution flag go up. Lap 1 caution sector 3. So that's getting us over here to Soldier 1 Assault. All right, lap 1 caution sector 3. All right, F1 Arcade 44 has come in second with a 154.874. Diaz comes in 7th here so far with 2 minutes 8:59. All right, go ahead and check back here in Johnny Bananas, who is tearing through section 2 at the moment, trying to make up some time here. We have 9:45 here left in the qualifier as he comes under the crypto ad, putting into section 3. So here we go. Section 3 for Johnny Bananas. We'll see how things are looking for him. All right, Fast UGA has also joined in. We've got still a couple of folks who are now in the pit. Hiram Pelosi's on the outlap at the moment. Let's see exactly where Johnny Bananas is going to come in momentarily. Picked up some good speed there through section 3. Now making his way through the chicane and shortly crossing the finish line. All right, so Johnny Banana is good for fourth so far with a 155.221. That puts us waiting on folks like Soldier One Assault, who is currently out, and Fast GGA, I believe, and Soldier Assault, the only ones currently. Oh, okay, we've just had some things switch up there. So Soldier Assault here, currently, whoop, got to flip back up to him here. Soldier One Assault is currently making his way through Section 2, pushing into Section 3 here, and is kicking it up into 8th gear, trying to pull some speed on this relative straightaway. See how he handles the chicane coming up here in a moment. Just in front of him is Diaz. So we'll see how things are working out here for Soldier One Assault momentarily. This killer slowdown. Took it a bit on the outside there. Pitting, I should say. So Soldier One Assault going to the pit here during the qualifiers. Still 7:53 left. All right, so of the people who have yet to complete their qualifier, we have Soldier One Assault, Hiram Pelosi, Vinny Crema, Force One Paolo, and Thomas, or Jestem Taki Fiane. I don't know how to pronounce that word. But we have some a calm moment here with Soldier One Assault in the pit. Let's check out Hiram Pelosi and how Hiram is doing. No relationship, I am assuming, to the former U.S. Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. Hiram is pulling through the end of Section 2, now into Section 3 on this very, very wet track here in Belgium. Kicking it up 8th gear, trying to get some speed in the back half of the course. Now, the question is going to be, where's Hiram going to finish here? Because there's only a 7.5 second gap, or I guess an 8-second gap between 1st and 9th currently. So nice handle on the chicane there by Hiram. Hiram gunning it down the home stretch. 5th, 6th, 7th gear. All right, Hiram good enough for 3rd with a 154.761. So we're seeing a decent amount of variance here in the qualifiers. So let's check over now on Force One Paolo, who is also pushing through Section 3, really screaming around this edge here, downshifting, getting ready for those chicanes to see if he can handle the chicanes just as well as Soldier One Assault did. Or excuse me, not as Soldier One Assault did, Hiram did. Okay, took the inside curve pretty strong. All right, little bit of an oversteer there, but we're going to go ahead and see if he can gun it through the end. 6th, bam, all right. That will put, as a matter of fact, oh my goodness, who am I even tracking at the moment? I'm tracking Force One Paolo. Okay, so no qualifying time yet for Force One Paolo. 5:50 here left in the qualifier. We've got 3 viewers in the chat. I assume most of them on YouTube. God bless you. Thank you for tuning in and listening to the rantings of a complete F1 neophyte here. So coming down the straightaway on Section 1 here, we are, of course, following Force One Paolo. Paolo, I thought, had completed his lap. I guess not. Most of the field has, at this point, completed their qualifiers. The field is largely set, but it will depend on where the last couple of folks fall. Soldier One Assault, Vinny Crema, Force One Paolo, and Thomas, I suppose. Jestem Taki Fiane, or however his name is, supposed to be pronounced. So Force One Paolo, the only one currently out working on the qualifier. Diaz is on his out lap. Soldier One Assault, Vinny Crema, and Jestem, I should say, currently in the pit. Most of the field has, in fact, set their qualifying time. So here midway through Section 2, Force One Paolo. Let's see. Okay, about to push past. Oh, a little collision there for Force One Paolo. Just qualifiers, though. So no flag, it looks like. I don't see anything popping up. We'll see how this goes. Oh, I'm doing amazing, he says. Switch telemetry on. All right, happy to do that. How the devil do I switch on telemetry? All right, settings. Difficulty, weekend structure, weather, time of day, assist restrictions, lobby options. All right. I'm afraid I don't know how to switch on the telemetry, my friend. All right, so exceeded track limits with some invalidated lap times. That would explain why Soldier One Assault had that second go around. All right, so that's how we get to the race director. Is there a quick race director key? Because I don't believe there is. All right, let's check the options menu here again. Assist, weather, time of day, weekend structure, difficulty, rules, flags, simulation settings, on-screen display, graphics settings, accessibility, telemetry. Okay. Yeah, we'll go ahead and switch on telemetry. All right. Telemetry is on, my friend. So, Nuno, my telemetry is now on. Is there anything else I ought to do here? All right, Soldier One Assault back now on his outlap. Thomas back on his outlap. Vinny Crema still in the pit, making some adjustments, it would seem. So let's check the race director, see what has been going on so far. Everybody, it would seem, except for Soldier One Assault, running medium tires. Soldier One, the only one also bringing a soft tire today. So Fast UGA running with 3 medium tires. Everyone else down to 2, or excuse me, 3, not mediums, excuse me, intermediates, I should say. Everyone else down to 1 or 2 intermediates. A few invalidated lap times today here, but that doesn't seem to have slowed too many people down. Everyone here has qualified. As a matter of fact, Tariel was the first one to finish. He had 2 incidents, nothing too bad, just invalidated lap times. Soldier One Assault, one foul here. But other than that, it looks to be a pretty clean day here in the qualifying. All right, yeah, like I said, Nuno, I've got it switched on. Fear not, my friend. Check the sound, Fast UGA says. All right, what do I need to do for the sound? Is it too loud? Is the audio of the game too loud? Is my voice too loud? What is everyone's opinion here? Lap 0 cautions, sector 1 and 2. All right. One minute, 22 seconds left here. Soldier One Assault, Vinny Crema, and Thomas need to get their qualifying laps in. Caution, sector 3. We got a green flag, however, so we'll see. We'll see how things are going to shake out. We've got some folks just joining us. ABCA, Africa, something just joined the game, presumably to observe, because I believe we have a pretty full field at this point. We've got 14 folks, 55 seconds left. And let's see here. I don't believe... All right, so Diaz finishes here at 12th with 2 minutes 8:59. So we've got time here. Maybe Vinny Crema can finish. Vinny Crema here, just pulling around. 25 seconds left here. And Vinny is in sector 1. I don't believe Vinny is going to be able to get around in the remaining amount of time left. 18 seconds. He's flooring it, but just through section 1 now. All right, we keep getting cautions for lap 1, sector 3. All right, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, time remaining, 2:58. We have ended qualifications. Checkered flag is out for Fast UGA, Johnny's Bananas, DM22 Point, Tario, and Diaz. All right, let's see here. All right. Fast UGA says my audio is good. Okay, well, I am very glad to hear that, my friends. 2:37 until the start of the race. Qualifying time is done. So we have our field set. Our grid is going to be in first place, Fast UGA, followed by Hiram Pelosi, both teammates today, followed by Pedro and Thomas in the 3rd and 4th slots. Excuse me, I spoke too soon. F1 RK44 has taken the fastest lap time and now will have pole position, beating out Fast UGA by less than half a second with a time of 1:52.278. Adriano says in the chat, sensational or sensacional. I'm not, do forgive again my pronunciation of any Portuguese. The only familiarity I have with Latin languages happens to come from the fact that I grew up in Texas and I have a passing familiarity with Spanish. So, of course, my Spanish and Portuguese, cousin languages, but not all that close in many regards. I recognize some cognates whenever I read them. Okay, now we have times for the entire field with about a 20-second gap almost here between Pedro Proença with a 151.961 currently in the top slot, and Soldier One Assault in the back of the field with a 2:07.020. So looking pretty stout here. Force One Paolo has his time set, has not yet received his checkered flag. Thomas is in the pit, but everybody else is just about set and ready to go. The first transmission in English, yes, it is Adriano, and I hope it is to everyone's liking as I come into my own here and get more comfortable with everything that goes on in these races. All right, well, my UI has disappeared. All right. And that means it is race time, my friends. All right, so here we go. This is what we've got as far as our qualifications go. Pedro Proença with the best time at a 151.961 for Team Red Bull, followed by F1 RK44 for McLaren, 152.278, just 0.317 behind first place. Fast UGA and Hiram Pelosi for Team Ferrari, coming in third and fourth. A little bit of a gap there between Fast UGA and Hiram. Hiram just less than 2 seconds behind. Then we have a kind of mix of teams going through AlphaTauri, Aston Martin, Williams, and Alfa Romeo kicked by Vinny Crema, Thomas, Ricky FCP, and Johnny's Bananas representing Panama today, if I'm reading these flags correctly. And we also have our Polish racers, Thomas and F1 RK44. Everybody else is from Portugal or Brazil. I'm not totally sure of UGA's location, given that it had the world map on it, but I do believe he is also hailing from Brazil today. It is, of course, let's see, I believe it is, what is it? It is 5 p.m. or so, 5:30 p.m. almost in Brazil. It is 3:23 here in the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, where we are broadcasting the race from. And we will see how this race shakes out. I am very excited. This is my first ever sort of esports broadcast that I've been doing. I've got some experience doing voiceover, voice acting, so this will be my first time commentating a live event. I just hope that my voice manages to hold out for its entirety. So please do feel free to leave a chat in the YouTube chat. I have the multi-stream open here on Streamlabs, so if you comment on Twitch, if you comment on YouTube, I will be able to see it. I will be able to answer your questions. And I am very much looking forward to this today. This should be a good race. Very wet track today. Most of the racers, all of the racers rather, favoring intermediate tires to deal with some of that humidity, some of that moisture on the raceway. And here we go. And they are off. Leading us, of course, is Pedro. He is in the pole position. F1 RK44 just 0.1. Oh my goodness, we had a collision right at the very beginning. And we have people trying to get back into position. Ricky FCP now leading the back of the pack. I say leading the back of the pack. Taking the back of the pack, 6.640 seconds behind the 15th place racer, DMC 22 point. Up at the beginning, we have F1 RK44 leading a tight race. As a matter of fact, Fast UGA only 0.2 seconds behind, making a push. Oh my goodness, okay. He's getting passed on the left there. Now Pedro is, all right, Pedro has overtaken F1 RK44, and F1 RK44 being pressured from behind very tightly by Fast UGA, trying to make some of this time up here in the straightaways, but on his right-hand side, and a collision there between F1K, RK, spin out! Oh my goodness gracious, we have a disaster right here. F1 falling right down the list along with Fast UGA. They have dropped to 13th and 14th. Meanwhile, back up at the very front of the race, Pedro Proença, 614. We have a virtual safety car out on lap 1. My goodness gracious. So that is that. Fast UGA is chosen to withdraw today. We have a virtual safety car out on the track. My goodness gracious, what a wild beginning to this race. We didn't even get through the first lap before we had some wild collisions here on this wet course. So, oh my goodness gracious, that is wild. Pedro currently in the lead by over 3 seconds. Vinny Crema starting to creep up now, pulling that back in. Down to a 1.7. That is where we stand here. So, oh my goodness gracious. Diaz at the back of the pack currently 5 seconds behind F1 RK44. And we've got some, the pack looks relatively tight by time interval. As a matter of fact, past the first 4 racers, everybody's within a second or so. So, my goodness gracious, what an exciting beginning to this race. Now we are back out. The virtual safety car is gone. So Pedro here, being very cautious it would seem, looking to try to take most of his speed in the straightaway, really pulling away from the pack here, or attempting to at least. Vinny Crema about 2.35 seconds behind. Crema now making a push, trying to get back in view of Pedro, but Pedro's not having it. Pushing down on section 1, just putting the pedal to the metal. Now here comes the first turn. Pedro taking it on the outside, working back to the inside. Vinny Crema following not too closely behind him, or relatively closely, I should say, 1.7 seconds, 1.8 seconds. Then once we shift back to Hiron Pelosi, Hiron is able to see the other racers from where he is, but he's got to do some work to close that gap. He's 2.3 seconds behind second place Vinny Crema. So everybody, it looks like the weather is playing sort of havoc with everyone's driving today. We're seeing some wild variance here in course, in the gaps between the racers as they struggle to keep their cars on the tracks. We can see here Hiron 1.8 seconds behind, Tomas 1.8 seconds behind Hiron, Soldier One Assault 1.7 seconds behind Tomas, Johnny Happy 1.2 seconds behind Soldier One Assault, keeping Soldier One squarely in his crosshairs. Then we have Absa Frica de Sol, half a second behind Johnny Happy, staying right near his rear view mirror. Tariel, 2.6 seconds behind Absa. Boris Doido, less than 1 second behind. Johnny's Bananas, less than 1 second behind Doris. Force One Palo, half a second behind Johnny's Bananas. Gullit Diaz, about 8 seconds behind Force One Palo, although he just briefly skidded off course, now 9 seconds behind. DM 22 points. Our fastest lap, Pedro, at 1:56.872 for Team Red Bull. Staying at the head of the pack, DM 22 PT, about 15 seconds behind. We got a caution flag on Sector 3 right now. So, 14 seconds there. Race control, 3-second time penalty here on Diaz for multiple penalty warnings. So, everybody's seeming to have a little bit of trouble today with their racers, with their vehicles. Pedro, however, doing a fine job commanding his vehicle, and he is 3.219 seconds ahead of Vinny Crema at the moment. And as a matter of fact, if we check the tail camera here for Pedro, you can't even very easily make out Crema. You can kind of see flashes of him as he's rounding corners, but some solid lead built up here by Pedro, followed of course by Vinny Crema. Vinny is contending with Hiron Pelosi, who's 2 seconds behind him, as he is sort of chasing the ghost here of Pedro. And again, you can see snatches or flashes of Pedro from Vinny Crema here as he works to gain those 3.9 seconds back. The rest of the field still having some difficulties as we check back on Thomas here. 1.7 Thomas here coming in section 2. That's where the majority of the pack is currently located. As a matter of fact, Pedro has just entered section 3, the first racer to do so on lap 3 of 22. The racers, as you can see from the map in the bottom right corner. Oh, disaster there for Thomas. He spun out. We've got a caution now on sectors 2 and 3. Thomas trying to get spun back the right way. Tires slipping all over the place. Now we have a virtual safety car again. Another virtual safety car coming out because of the slickness of the track and all the difficulties that has produced. And I will say, race control, DM2, 22.5 second penalty, severe collision with Ricky. So we'll go ahead and check out DM 22 point So a severe collision with Ricky, who is right in front of him. Ricky here, no damage to the car, all that evident, but a severe collision's nothing to bark at. So here we go. DM 22-point virtual safety car still out. Seeing Pedro opening up a large lead here of 4.6 seconds over Vinny Crema. Hiram Pelosi trailing after Vinny by 2.5 seconds. Soldier One Assault following in fourth with a 5.5 second gap. So Pedro making a statement today here in the third race of the season. This rain just messing with everybody. My goodness gracious. So looks like DM 22-point is going to go ahead and pit Goulart Diaz with a black and a white flag. I forget exactly what that means, but back up at the front of the pack again here. Pedro taking, not really going too crazy on the straightaways, but making sure he is staying very safe, working inside on those turns when he can, and just focusing on a drive-through penalty here, speeding under VSC for Hiram Pelosi, so that will harm Hiram back in the third place. So we are seeing just a wild race. My goodness gracious. Of course, this would happen to me on my very first Formula One anything. I've never watched a Formula One race. I've never seen a Formula One race. Like I said, my racing experience comes from playing Mario Kart growing up and watching the Gran Turismo movie a little while back. So we'll see. We got another black and white flag out now for Hiram Pelosi. Virtual safety car out again today. This is the third or fourth time in as many laps. We are on our fourth lap, and we have seen the virtual safety car almost once per lap here. Ricky FCP choosing to retire in 14th place. So that leaves that leaves two teams with just one racer each. Let's see if I can remember what the black and white flag F1 is for here, not the checkered flag. So we'll see what's going on here with the flags. Not a green flag, not a blue flag, not a white flag. Oh my goodness, will this website load? All right. Black and white flag is shown as a warning to a driver that they have been reported for unsportsmanlike behavior. All right, that's what it means from. All right, so Hiram Pelosi and Diaz kind of on notice here from the race steward, displaying some air quotes here, unsportsmanlike behavior. Just a wild, wild day. So Pedro maintaining a consistent 4 to 5 second gap here over second place Vinny Crema. Crema doing well, frankly, given the condition of the track, to stick close at about 4 or 5 seconds behind. Then Hiram Pelosi shortly behind after that at 2.53. We've got another caution in Sector 3 going on as we flip through trying to find which racer that is. That is going to be DM 22-point. In Sector 3, it might have been Diaz, actually. With DM 22-point now, 21 seconds behind, 13th place Diaz. So Diaz, Diaz and F1K, F140, RK44, RK44, 25.95 seconds behind the 11th place Boris. So we see a pretty wide gap at the beginning and then at the end of the race. So the pack still mostly concentrated in that middle section there, starting with, I believe, the 4th place Soldier One Assault. That's where we're seeing a lot of stuff going on here. Yeah, that's where the bulk of our pack is Johnny Happy and Africa Soul battling here for 4th place or 5th place. We got a caution lap flag out in Sector 2 again here. There we go. And let's check back in on the front of the race here. Pedro, not having too much of the way of trouble, is pushing up to almost a 6-second lead over Vinny Crema. So Hiram Pelosi has chosen to pit. And let's see if he makes any change on his tires. He's got intermediates on at the moment. All right, Soldier One Assault now in 3rd place, 8.6 seconds behind Vinny Crema. All right, Hiram Pelosi dropping to 7th place with the pit, decision to pit. Now 9th, dropping further all the time. Force One Paolo now making the move up to 8th, trailing behind Tario by just 1/10 of a second. Pedro, I don't believe, has chosen to pit yet just today. So things going well for Pedro here. He's got a 5.9-second lead again over Vinny Crema as we look down through the rest of the pack. It remains a relatively tight race once we get from 5th place on to about 10th place. You're seeing about a 6-second gap between 5th and 11th or so, which is not a ton of time. Another spin out, another pit stop, that's all it will take for that to become a very interesting race as we are working on lap 6 of 22. So the race almost 1/3 of the way over. Diaz flagged again for unsportsmanlike conduct back in 14th. He has dropped to 14th at this point. Looks like he spun out a little bit. He's trying to get back on the track. Oh my goodness! And his car has slammed now. I think we've got some hardware issues for Diaz. He slammed into the sidewall. And he's having some very, I'm seeing what appear to me to be some desync issues maybe. The front wings of his car are completely gone. The man has gone Sephiroth, one-winged angel here, and perhaps no winged angel. He has no wings on the front of his car. We got another caution flag out in Sector 3. A 5-second penalty for Force 1 Paolo for a severe collision with Tariel. So let's flip up there and see how that is shaping up from the broadcast camera. We got 4 people in the chat watching, and heaven help you, my friends. I barely know what I'm talking about. I am a neophyte from Texas who knows a lot more about college football as we enter the chicanes here close to the finish line. For the lap, here we have Boris Duito in 9th, trailing Johnny Bananas by 0.7 seconds. Force 1 Paolo overtaking Boris Duito, however, pushing in as they come around that curve. My goodness. All right, so Hiram Pelosi 3.7 seconds behind Tomas Justin Takifejne, or however it's pronounced. Johnny Bananas 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings here. So another unsportsmanlike flag on Johnny Bananas, another on Paolo. So we'll see how things are shaking out. There have been many unsportsmanlike conduct flags here today. Force 1 Paolo and Boris Duito trading positions again in an effort here to sort of battle for 10th place and get some points. So let's check back in up at the front of the race where we have, of course, Pedro rocking out. He's opened up his lead now to 7.7 seconds over second place Vinny Crema. Soldier One Assault now 10 and a half seconds behind Vinny Crema. So the beginning of the pack beginning to stretch out a bit more. As a matter of fact, we're starting to see the whole pack stretch out somewhat. It would appear that our tightest racing is still around 6th or 7th place with Johnny Happy, Johnny's Bananas, Hiram Pelosi, and Force 1 Paolo, and Boris Duito, and all the way to Tariel in 11th, 1.468 seconds behind Boris Duito. We have another caution flag in Sector 1. And another virtual safety car. The virtual safety car getting quite a bit of workout today. Oh my goodness gracious. So seeing quite a bit of that now. This is the, I want to say, 4th or 5th time we have seen the virtual safety car in 8 laps. We had a few clean laps there, I think, but we've seen the virtual safety car an incredible amount today, trying to keep the racers from almost killing each other. Actually, so we've just this track has proven tremendously difficult. Of course, this is only the 3rd race of the season here for the Brazuka F1 eRacing League. I'm your broadcaster, Sterling C. Beard. Thank you for joining me today on Twitch and or YouTube on my channel at Sterling C. Beard. And if you'd like me to broadcast your race when I have barely anything to talk about, hit me up on Discord. Again, my handle there is at Sterling C. Beard. Just drop me a DM. I would be happy to respond. And if you have any voice acting or voiceover work you need and you'd like to use the dulcet tones of my voice for any of your projects or products, more than happy, of course, to provide that service. Rates are negotiable. So let's get back to the race here. Virtual safety car still out. Drive-through penalty, speeding under VSE again for F1 RK44. We've got 4 unsportsmanlike conduct flags out on the field right now for ABC Africa Soul. Then we have Johnny's Bananas, Force 1 Paolo, and F1 RK44. Another position swap here between F1K and Force 1 Paolo. These two here battling very closely for 11th. Force 1 Paolo trying to force his way back in, and he overtakes successfully coming into the end of Section 1, pushing into Section 2. These two guys driving like maniacs, attempting to overtake, attempting to block. So we'll see. We'll keep it right here for the moment. This is where some of the most intense racing is. As a matter of fact, I believe it's the only swapping in position that we have seen in the last lap or two. Aside from the pitting that took Hiram down from about 4th to currently 8th position. So, all right. So we're seeing Force One Palo start to push a little bit ahead of F1RK by about a second, a little less than a second, 0.75 or so. DM 22.25 seconds behind RK44. So, yeah, we are still seeing, like I said, the top 3 here. Pedro, Vinny Crema, and Soldier One Assault. Another caution on Sector 3 today. My goodness gracious. I do believe that one, however, was for Tariel coming out of Section 3. We'll see how things are looking. So we've got... yeah, the race feels pretty much set at this point. Pedro attempting to stretch his lead out even further. Race control, Africa Soul, 3-second time penalty. Multiple warnings here for Africa Soul. So Africa Soul, F1RK44, now choosing to pit. We'll see what happens here, if there are any tires that he chooses to swap out. He is, of course, still using intermediate tires, just like I believe everyone else is today. So let's go ahead and let's check and just see from the race director what kind of a wild day we are having with the incidents. Oh my goodness gracious. Well, folks, we have to scroll here on the race director to see what the heck is going on. So in lap 1, we had no fewer than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 incidents in lap 1. Multiple collisions, warnings handed out all over the place. Collision, 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 collision. As a matter of fact, it looks like the first 5 were collisions. Then we had 4 exceeded track limits, followed by corner cutting. And, oh, this just doesn't stop. All right, so we had some... Lap 4 was the cleanest lap we've had, along with, yeah, lap 4 with 1 incident. Speeding under VSC, a drive-through for Hiram Pelosi. But past that, lap 6, another wild lap. Multiple track limits exceeded, multiple warnings for Force One Palo, severe collisions going everywhere, exceeded track limits, terminal damage here for DS in lap 7, meaning he did not finish. So we've seen some more exceeded track limits, multiple warnings, exceeded track limits. So we are on lap 9, and lap 9 is already racking up several incidents. So we'll go ahead and check out again, top of the pack. Pedro now about 8 seconds ahead. Vinny Crema nowhere in the rearview mirror. Crema, of course, doing his best to close that gap. Soldier One Assault even further behind Crema. The Crema is for Pedro, about 11 seconds behind Crema. Soldier One, however, is contending with Thomas, who's only about 3 seconds behind him. And with Thomas, he's got Africa Soul a half second behind, closer to 1 second at this point. Still contending. Africa Soul stretched out behind Africa Soul. We have Joni Happy, 94, about 3.6 seconds behind. Hiram Pelosi trying to make up the ground he lost by pitting earlier in this race, 1.2 seconds behind Joni. So you can see this is where we start to see the race clump up a little bit, is coming into the chicane out of Section 1, moving into Section 2. That seems to be where people kind of cluster up again. You can see it here. We are seeing a lot of difficulty here for Johnny Happy on the left side of that rail, attempting to keep his car on the track. We might have some sinking issues. We've got cautions in Sector 1 and 3. All right, so this is where some of the tightest racing currently is. As a matter of fact, I believe this is the smallest gap we currently have on the track between Johnny Bananas and Force One Palo, also Johnny Happy 94, and Hiram Pelosi. Hiram Pelosi less than a half second behind Johnny. Doesn't really look to be attempting to overtake just yet, although he's really starting to pull in on some of that infield. Not exceeding the track limits yet, but oh, okay. Yep, that gravel here coming around that big turn in Section 3. I think I've seen it nab a couple of racers today. So, yeah, the only people at this point with less than a second between them are Johnny Happy 94 and Hiram Pelosi. You can see here as we look from Johnny Happy 94's rear view, Hiram Pelosi not giving too much cushion, desperately trying to keep that... oh, my goodness, we actually had an overtake there. where Hiram Pelosi actually overtook Africa Soul. And now Hiram Pelosi 2.76 seconds behind Johnny Happy. Africa Soul now has chosen the pit. All right, so that puts us, we've got more unsportsmanlike conduct flags for Africa Soul, Johnny Bananas, and Forrest Paolo. Let's check the race director, see what those incidents were. Can I jump to the bottom of it? I cannot. We're going to have to scroll all the way down. All right, so Johnny Bananas exceeded track limits again. Forrest Paolo, however, a collision with Johnny Bananas briefly before that. So it looks like we are seeing, I don't think anything intentional. I think the track is just so slick. We saw that tremendous pileup right at the beginning of that, right at the beginning there. So that unfortunately causing some issues. We've just seen so many people here have bumps, pile-ups, and everything else. As a matter of fact, we've had multiple people today not finish. We've had 4 DNFs. So that leaves us here on lap 11 and 22. We are now halfway through Grid Bravo today here in Belgium. And Pedro, again, opening up the large lead at the beginning with an 11-second interval, almost 12 seconds, really pushing forward, really pushing forward ahead of Vinny Crema. Vinny Crema himself is 12 seconds ahead of Soldier One Assault, so a bigger gap between Vinny Crema and Soldier One Assault than between Pedro and Crema. There we go. So let's see. Now Soldier One Assault choosing to pit. All right, that leaves Thomas a chance. Now Thomas is going to overtake Soldier One Assault. Thomas now 15 seconds behind Crema, hoping to get some advantage here. Soldier One Assault again falling back down the leaderboard. Hiram Pelosi now making his move back up to 4th, sort of status quo ante with a 5.5 second gap between him and Tomas. Africa Soul flagged again for unsportsmanlike conduct in the pit now. Soldier One in the pit. He's now out of the pit. Africa Soul flagged again for unsportsmanlike conduct. Both of them back out on the track at this point. Johnny Bananas again flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct. Force One Paolo as well. Boris Doido hanging out in 7th place, trying to close the gap with Soldier One Assault, who has dropped, of course, after pitting. Boris a mere 1.2 seconds behind. And up at the top, Pedro has opened his lead up now to 13.596 seconds. Just expertly taking care of business up at the front of the pack. Crema, of course, Thomas not doing badly themselves either, but Pedro, if he does not wind up pitting at some point, is going to have a massive lead over the rest of the field. If he does pit, however, it could bring us back to something closer. I don't recall if Vinny or Tomas have pitted today already, but we shall see. All right, so 14-second lead now for Pedro, and an equidistant lead for Vinny over Tomas. It looks like, yes, okay, Vinny is going to pit here. That gives Pedro an opportunity to really open up a big lead. We'll see how well and how long he can stretch that, because he will be then, I believe, about 29 seconds, almost half a minute ahead. Tomas also pitting. That will leave Pedro well in first place as they pit. Hiram Pelosi pitting again. So, oh my goodness, Pedro on lap 13 really has the chance to open up a massive lead. We'll see how things go here as Vinny Crema now back out 33 seconds behind, 32 and a half seconds behind roughly, behind Pedro, who is not doing anything too wild here at the front of the pack. Just working on pushing through and keeping control of his vehicle, trying not to spin out, trying not to skid off the track. So Boris and Tomas having a bit of a battle here for 4th place. Boris, of course, holding fast, but Tomas a grand total, he overtook on the left side of Boris. So these 3 racers, Boris, Johnny Bananas, and Tomas here, just trying their damnedest to get a 4th place finish. Of course, we've still got a good deal of racing left to go, about half left. So Yep, we see this this kind of battle here between a cluster of 3 cars and then a cluster of 2 cars. Chasing in 8th place, Johnny Happy 94 with a half second behind 7th place Force One Paolo, and then Hiram Pelosi a half second behind Johnny Happy as well. So we are now about 20 minutes into this race. It is a little over halfway done. We are on lap 13. And Pedro really staking his claim. You can see in the mini map on the bottom right hand, Pedro just passed the finish line again, and Pedro now is pitting. So here is Crema's chance. Tariel, 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings. Crema has got a chance to close this gap with Pedro. Pedro now working his way out of the pits. Let's see what's going to happen here. How close is Vinny going to get? He's coming around. All right, he's not going to get quite on Pedro's tail, but he has chopped about half of that time off. He's now 15 seconds, 13 seconds behind Pedro, 12 seconds behind, 14. All right, so Soldier One Assault with the fastest lap today, 156.693. An impressive showing there from Soldier One Assault rather. Which puts him at, let's see, 3rd place, 8.5 seconds behind Vinny Crema. Crema having cut steeply. We've got 4 unsportsmanlike flags out again. So this has just been a wild day, a wild day. We've got 4 DNFs. Everybody else getting flagged relatively consistently for unsportsmanlike conduct. But Pedro lost about half his lead here on Vinny Crema. But that still means he's still about 14 seconds ahead. Crema doing well there to cut into Pedro's lead. Pedro, however, is still well out in front of the rest of the pack, finishing now, closing in on the end of Section 2. Crema here beginning section, midway through Section 2, I should say. So let's go ahead and we'll check on the back of the pack. Tariel out in 12th place, working to catch DM22 point. He's about 9.176 seconds behind. DM22 is, fittingly, he was 22 seconds behind there. He is now 26.6 seconds behind Africa Soul. Race Control, Force One Paolo, 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. So Force One Paolo now swapping places with Hiram Pelosi here, as we see. So Force One Paolo now dropping back behind Johnny Happy 94. Hiram Pelosi, another 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. So we'll see if that will affect the standings here. Hiram Pelosi currently in 7th. He's got that 3-second time penalty. All right, so Boris Duito, as we start to move back up, we're seeing the pack again lengthen out like a bit of Laffy Taffy as things sort of stretch out. All right, Thomas with the fastest lap of 156.329 for Aston Martin Aramco here. Boris is choosing now to pit here on lap 15 out of 22. Just 7 seconds left as we stay here with Boris as he pits. So again, multiple flags for all these racers. Boris now choosing to pit. Africa Soul, Force One Paolo, Tariel, Hiram Pelosi, Johnny's Bananas, again, unsportsmanlike flags all over the place. This is like an American football game, a particularly chippy American football game. Flags all over the place. All right, 6.3 seconds here behind Thomas is Johnny's Bananas 35. Tariel swapping with DM22 point now as DM222 takes to the pit. Tariel, again, also flagged for unsportsmanlike, but takes that 11th place slot away from DM22 point. So with just 7 laps left, let's review the points. Remember, first place gets 25 points. Second place gets 18 points. Third place, 15th. Fourth place, 12th. Fifth place, 10. Sixth place gets 8. Seventh place gets 6th. Eighth gets 4. Ninth gets 2. 10th place gets 1 point, and the fastest lap gets a bonus point. So, with 12 racers in the race today, most people guaranteed at least some points as we come into the 16th lap and as we are in the 3rd race of the season. So it's early yet. It's early yet. Still plenty of races to go all the way through July, in fact. So, of course, the next race will be on March 23rd, again at the 5 p.m. mark in Brazil, Brazil time. And the circuit will be Australia. That will be the circuit. And, in fact, it will be a sprint race as well. So, that will be what we're dealing with, or sprint qualifier, I guess. I forget exactly how that works. But that will be what will be going on in the next race on the 23rd. Unsure if I will be able to join for that one. I would love to. I've been having some fun today doing some broadcasting. So let's go ahead and we'll kick it back to the broadcast view and check back in on Pedro, who has, again, widened his lead out to 17 seconds. So he's put about 3 more seconds on after pitting, going from 14 all the way back up to 17 seconds ahead of Vinny Crema. Soldier One Assault trying to close down with Vinny Crema, doing a good job here, 8.9 seconds. So he's cut into that significant lead over him that Vinny Crema had previously. Soldier One Assault also trying to close the gap, 8.8 seconds behind him and Vinny Crema. So doing well there. Tomas only 2.4 seconds behind Soldier One Assault. So as we can see here, Tomas coming around that curve midway through 3. Oh, Tomas spins out. We got a caution flag here in Sector 3. Tomas gets spun back around and appears to be having some real trouble getting his vehicle facing the correct direction. Now is going to rejoin the track. So we have another caution flag out. That's on lap 17 currently, is where we are. So the interesting thing will be, of course, that because we have 10 racers who will be receiving points today, just because somebody is back at the pack at 11th or 12th, if they manage to claim the fastest lap, that means that they could still walk away with a bonus point, even if they did not finish 10th or better. So we will see what's happening. Some of the tightest racing here, kind of in the middle of the pack, with Hiram Pelosi in 5th, less than about 1.1 seconds ahead of Tomas, who is 2.5 seconds ahead of Johnny Happy, who is a half second ahead of Africa Soul. So right now, 5th through 8th place, where the tightest racing action. But we've got another time penalty for Tomas. That's going to keep him another unsportsmanlike flags flying here. As 4th, 5th, 6th, 8th, 9th, and 11th, all flagged for unsportsmanlike conduct again. So as we head into lap 17 here, let's go ahead and we will check the race director again for the incidents and see what just happened. And my goodness, we have to scroll all the way down. All right, so we have here more exceeding track limits on lap 16 and 17. My goodness gracious. All right, so Johnny Bananas now in 4th place. Another caution flag, or excuse me, unsportsmanlike. Oh, we got some jostling here. Hiram Pelosi overtakes Johnny Bananas on the left side. Race control, Boris Doito, 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings again. Boris Doito down in 10th, but 34 seconds ahead of DM22PT. So Hiram Pelosi and Tomas jockeying here. Oh, no! And Hiram Pelosi has gone skidding into the infield and is dropped into 8th, and the graphics or the physics of the tires here of the barrier going absolutely nuts. Hiram working to get a 3-point turn going to get back into the race. He is now dropped to 8th place. He is 13 seconds behind Africa Soul as Force One Palo rockets past on the left side. Same with Boris Doito, passing him on the inside of this turn here. Now Hiram Pelosi was as high as 4th earlier in this race. He's going to have to do a lot of work to make that time up, especially as he contends with Force Palo and Boris Doito from Mercedes, who are working and doing their damnedest. Now, Hiram is going to make an interesting decision here. He's going to go ahead and pit, probably to swap out tires here after that spin out. So Pedro here cruising at the front of the pack, 21.6 seconds lead over second place Vinny Crema. Vinny Crema leading by 7.7 seconds over third place Soldier One Assault. Tomas 17 seconds behind Soldier One Assault. So we are seeing, I think, where we are going to sort of see the race eventually shake out. We are on lap 18, 4 laps to go here as we pass the 30-minute mark in this race. So a relatively quick race despite the wild conditions of the track. Vinny Crema suffers a 3-second penalty for warnings. And almost the entire field, save for Soldier One Assault, Pedro, and Joni Happy, and DM22 point flag, I assume, again, for probably exceeding track limits. But let's go ahead and we'll check down into Africa Soul here. Africa Soul trailing Joni Happy and Johnny's Bananas, just visible up ahead, rounding curves. So we are seeing some wild sportsmanship penalties today. Lots of them. In very difficult driving conditions. I actually attempted to drive a few qualifying laps myself. You can see the strange physics glitch that we're having over there on that corner of section 3. So I will say I did try to drive a few qualifying laps on this with no rain, not having any idea what I was doing. And I will applaud all the racers today. I could barely get around corners without smashing into various things. So I am super impressed by the control that everyone has shown here today on the track. All the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty flags notwithstanding. So we can go ahead and we can check out, again, Pedro. Pedro comfortably ahead of the pack, 22 seconds. And assuming he does not pit, he should have a relatively comfortable lead here heading into the last 3 laps. Vinny Crema 22 seconds behind, almost verging on 23. Also comfortably ahead of Soldier One Assault, who is 11 seconds behind him. And similarly, we have Tomas Jestimtaki Fejne, or however it's pronounced. Pedro, first penalty that I can recall seeing from him today, but 3-second time penalty for Pedro. He is still, however, 20 seconds ahead of Vinny Crema. All right, so still lots of unsportsmanlike conduct flags out. Soldier One Assault not flagged, Johnny Happy and DM22 point not happy. We have a caution flag in Sector 2 as it looks like Joni Happy had some sort of issue trying to get his car situated again, having difficulty getting traction, getting back onto the track. All right, so we've got that caution flag out in Sector 2. Yeah, Joni Happy having some difficulty kind of oversteering a little bit in this slick weather. Having some difficulty as we watch here from the first-person view camera. Pushing around the corner here in, where is he, Section 2, into the straightaway. So we have seen some wild racing here today. My goodness gracious. Oh, and a collision there, a little jostling between Force One Paolo and Joni Happy. We're going to keep it right here. Joni Happy attempting to overtake again, but Force One Paolo cuts him off, gets out in front, and is starting to try to open up a lead over Joni Happy. Now, of course, technically, Force One Paolo 5 seconds ahead with the time penalties. So that playing tremendously into Force One Paolo's hand here. But we've got it going on now. 21 seconds, not much changing up at the top. Africa Soul and Johnny's Bananas, really the 2 tightest racers in the top 5 right now. So Africa Soul 1 second behind Johnny's Bananas. Johnny's Bananas 4 seconds behind Tomas. Tomas, of course, way up in front. You can't really see Johnny's Bananas or Africa Soul as we check out the rear view camera. But that doesn't mean the racing is still not exciting, as we've seen multiple people spin out, Joni Happy, now having chosen to pit, however, drops to 10th place, allowing Hiram Pelosi to move up to 9th. We have 2 laps left to go. We are on lap 20. This is going to get interesting here. I am very curious to see if we have any last-minute drama. Joni Happy now pushing out in front of DM22, 9 seconds ahead of him as he comes out of the pit. So unsportsmanlike flags on everybody currently except for Soldier One Assault, Johnny Happy, and DM22. And when I say that, I mean that literally. Look at the entire flag of the field there. Just a wild, wild day. Collisions galore. Track limits exceeded. Everybody, of course, rocking the medium tires, working to do their damnedest to stay on the track and stay out of trouble. So here we go, folks. We are on to the final lap, lap 21 of 22, with Pedro Proenza 614 comfortably in the lead, 21.85 seconds ahead of Vinny Crema. Crema has been doggedly stuck in that second place position, but Pedro has had a death grip on first place, unwilling to surrender it under any circumstances, and doing a fine job of ensuring he hasn't gotten penalized too much. Now, we have had a caution flag in Sector 3 as we deal with Africa Soul and some of the others. So, yeah, we've still got the Pedro 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings, but he can afford to burn some time penalties here, given how far ahead he is. 20 seconds ahead, so Vinny Crema still trying to keep this close, working to push up from second place, but Pedro has already extended it back out to 21.6 seconds, doing a masterful job today on this course of ensuring that he's following the racing line, that he's keeping his car on the track, not letting anything too wild happen. Now as we come around section 3 here, Pedro on the verge of lap Victorial, actually, it looks like. Yes, as a matter of fact, he's on the verge of lap Victorial. So Tariel trying to get through this course, if he can get through the rest of this lap without Pedro lapping him. So here we come into the final chicanes. The question is going to be, will Pedro lap Tariel? Will he accidentally collide? Will there be any sort of penalty? Does not look like it, however. Tariel, Africa Soul, 3-second time penalty. Tariel, let's see here. Did I say that was the last lap? Maybe this is the final lap. So we'll see what's going on here. Hey, Tariel getting blue flagged. I'm not sure he realizes it yet. So we'll see this here. Pedro trying to push up, still giving Tariel some space though, not wanting to maybe risk a collision or risk a penalty from the race master. But yeah, so at the moment, okay, here comes what could be an overtake attempt. Is he going to overtake? He pushes inside. Oh, no, he just barely squeezes past. We got this caution flag here. Johnny Bananas has chosen to retire, as has Africa Soul. And Tariel saying, no, sir, not going to let that happen on my watch. Dodges out in front again against Pedro, but now settles back behind him. Pedro has successfully lapped Tariel. All right, so this means that we now have, let's see, 12 racers, but we have Johnny and Africa Soul falling out. They've both retired, and they are falling back in the pack as other racers now get in front of them. Hiram Pelosi overtakes Johnny and Africa Soul. This leaves room now for, let's see, with this we have, I believe, 10 total racers still left in the race. Because, yeah, we're going to see, which means that everybody who finishes today is going to get a point, at least 1 point, assuming that they all do finish. So Pedro here still in the lead. Tariel chasing Pedro at this point, actually. And you can see Pedro just up in front as we jump back to Tariel's first-person view camera. But Pedro not taking any risks, not taking any chances. He's pushed back out to, oh, no, disaster! Disaster in section 3 for Pedro. Is he going to try to finish this driving backwards? I believe he is. Okay, he's driven backwards some, and he's trying to get some grip with these intermediate tires. 2:53 remaining in the race. But he has, in fact, crossed the finish line. So Pedro, not for style points, finishes by driving backwards over the finish line with a 14-second gap after spinning out in the very last turns of section 3 as he finishes his lap. So Vinny Crema also checkered flagged, Soldier One Assault checkered flagged, coming in second and third respectively. Let's go to Tomas here. Tomas coming into the last section of section 3, and we'll gun it here. Tomas wrapping up fourth place, 16 seconds behind Soldier One Assault, I believe, if I'm understanding the way this race works correctly. If not, I do apologize, because we'll see here. I do believe this is the end of the race. I do believe we have seen that. Boris Duito now getting a checkered flag, 8 seconds behind. Tomas, so that will place him 5th. Force One Paolo, 8 seconds behind Boris, which will place him 6th. Hiram Pelosi, tight relatively to Force One Paolo, 2.195 seconds behind. The tires and those slick nature of the course today just playing havoc with every racer attempting to finish. Hiram Pelosi now checkered flag. Johnny Happy, DM 22-point checkered flag. Tariel trying to finish here. Minute 20 left, minute 19 left. Can Tariel finish this lap? I believe he can. And when he does, he should receive a checkered flag, and that will be it for today's race. Tariel closing in on the very last chicane of Section 3. Turning around, he's got 1 minute and 4 seconds, and assuming nothing too wild happens, Tariel should finish the race today, giving us 10 racers. Yes, there we go. 10 racers finishing, each winning points. And I unlocked some sort of Xbox Live achievement, Eagle Eye. I spectated an online race. Only 5% of people have apparently done so. The driver of the day, Boris Doido. The winner, of course, Pedro. So, ladies and gentlemen, that takes care of that. My goodness, what a wild, wild race today here as we head to the podium for today's race in Belgium. A wet and wild and woolly race. All 3 racers from Brazil doing the Portuguese language and the South America proud. So here we go, folks. Here comes the fake digital champagne as they as the avatars spray each other from Alpine, Red Bull, and whatever that third team is. I can't quite make it out. All right, well, folks, here we have our overall results. Our winner is Pedro Proenza for Team Red Bull. One stop with his fastest lap time of 1:54.287, meaning he receives the bonus points. He got 2 unnecessary unsportsmanlike penalties. My goodness gracious, 26 points today for Pedro. In second place, Vinny Crema with starting from the 5th position, grid 5, moving up to second place with 1 stop, 1 second behind on that best lap time, 1.5 seconds, I should say, with only 1 unsportsmanlike conduct penalty, 18 points. In third place, not too far behind Vinny Crema, Soldier One Assault with 15 points, and it would appear no unsportsmanlike conduct flags today. Of course, we did have multiple did not finishes. Tariel rounding out the pack with 1 point for finishing 10th. Everybody else did not finish, so a wild, wet, wacky race here today at Belgium. So once again, my name is Sterling Seabeard. Thank you for joining me today on this insane race. Thank you again for the Brazuka F1 Racing League for having me broadcast today. It was an absolute pleasure. My very first time watching any sort of motorsporting event. I've never even watched NASCAR, despite having been born and raised in Texas. So thank you again very much, folks, for having me on today for this race in Belgium on this 22-lap race. A wild, wild, wild day. So thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate you watching. And thank you, Adriano, says amazing narration, Sterling. I appreciate that. Paulino Gova also says something. I can't quite read it because, again, I don't know Portuguese and I only know enough Spanish to recognize a handful of cognates. But this has been a delightful experience. I do hope that I get to do this again in the future. In the meantime, please do subscribe to my YouTube channel or my Twitch chat wherever you happen to be watching. I would appreciate the following. I do stream some other games occasionally, and just have fun, and I enjoy doing this sort of stuff. So thank you very much, everyone, for joining me. Thank you to the league for having me. Thank you to Fast UGA and Adriano for approaching me about this opportunity. And thank you to my good buddy Carlos Herrera, who I went to high school with, who races. I don't believe he was racing today, but good old buddy Carlos. Go Eagles. It's a great day to be an Eagle. It was a lot of fun, and I'm so glad that Carlos reached out and said that I ought to get in contact with everyone here for the Brazuka F1 eRacing League. This has been a lot of fun. So I will go ahead and Adriano, I am the man. Thank you very much, Adriano. I really appreciate that. 5 viewers in chat. Like I said, please do feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I would really appreciate the growth and the help growing my YouTube channel. I do stream other games occasionally, like Halo Infinite or some strategy games or something to that effect. So would love to have you all join me. I see that I have had 2 people Nuno and Felice following me. Thank you so much. An hour or two ago. Wonderful. Thank you all. Really appreciate it. This is the first time in months I've gotten new YouTube subscribers, so that's great. In the meantime, thank you again for joining me. I'm going to go ahead and end the broadcast here.